Picture this, it's late. You're exhausted. The day's over, but your mind? Still racing. Thoughts bouncing like pinballs, unfinished tasks, conversations you wish had gone differently, goals you haven't reached yet. You close your eyes, but your brain hits play on an endless loop. Sound familiar? That's the silent epidemic of our time. And Declutter Your Mind is the wake-up call we didn't know we needed. This book, written by S.J. Scott and Barrie Davenport, isn't just another self-help read. It's a lifeline. A practical, no fluff, no BS manual for people who are done with the chaos in their heads and ready to take their peace back. Released in 2016, its message has only gotten louder in today's world where we're drowning in information but starving for clarity. Scott and Davenport aren't distant gurus. They're real, down-to-earth thinkers who've spent years helping people build better habits and live more intentional lives. They saw what we're all feeling, the constant mental noise, the anxiety, the overstimulation, the pressure to always be on. And instead of telling us to just think happy thoughts or manifest our way out of stress, they offer something way more powerful, a way to take control. What is Declutter Your Mind really about? It's about giving yourself permission to breathe. It's about learning how to slow your thoughts before they spiral. It's about replacing constant worry with purposeful calm. And above all, it's about living, fully, presently, and with intention, even in a world that demands your attention 24/7. Now here's what sets this book apart. It understands that you don't live in a bubble. You're not a monk in a mountaintop monastery. You're someone balancing work, relationships, maybe a business, school, or family. You don't have time to escape the world. You need tools to function better inside it. That's what this book gives you. Real strategies. Real habits. Things you can start using right now, not someday, not next month, today. It dives deep into how we get mentally cluttered in the first place. Why we ruminate. Why we get stuck in loops of anxiety. Why we can't stop thinking about what we can't control. Then it gives you clear, doable steps to clear that mental fog, through mindfulness, purposeful routines, and emotional discipline. Think of it like spring cleaning for your brain. Only instead of tossing out old clothes, you're clearing out stress, fear, and distraction, and making space for clarity, confidence, and peace. Because here's the truth, your mind doesn't have to be a battleground. You don't have to live in reaction mode, constantly fighting to stay afloat. You can create space. You can design your inner world, just like you would your home or your calendar. And once you do, life gets quieter, but in the best way. The noise fades. The pressure lifts. And what's left is focus, presence, and a whole lot more peace. So whether you're a business professional who can't shut off, a student overwhelmed by a mountain of deadlines, or someone just trying to juggle it all without losing yourself, Declutter Your Mind meets you where you are and walks you toward where you want to be. This isn't about escaping life. It's about owning it, with a calm mind and a clear heart. Now, here's how we can divide Declutter Your Mind into 10 thoughtfully structured parts. Let's dive in part 1, the battle within, why your mind feels overcrowded. There's a silent battle going on inside most of us, one that doesn't show up in our calendars or to-do lists, but follows us everywhere we go. It wakes up with us in the morning and often keeps us from sleeping at night. It hides beneath our daily routines, in the pauses between emails, under the noise of meetings, errands, and responsibilities. It's not a battle with the world. It's not even a battle with other people. It's a battle inside our own minds. And here's the truth. Most of us are mentally exhausted, not because we're weak, or broken, or incapable, but because we're carrying too much, in silence. In Declutter Your Mind, authors S.J. Scott and Barrie Davenport pull back the curtain on something we all feel but rarely talk about, the constant, low-grade mental noise that wears us down, distracts us from what matters, and disconnects us from ourselves. This book isn't about organizing your closet or color-coding your schedule. It's about organizing your inner world, the cluttered, overwhelmed, overstimulated space that exists in your head and heart. Let's be honest, life today is noisy. For professionals, entrepreneurs, students, parents, anyone trying to do big things, there's always something demanding your mental attention. Your phone buzzes with texts and emails before you've even had your first sip of coffee. Your thoughts are pulled in 100 directions: deadlines, bills, meetings, relationships, health, global news, your future, your past. Then there's the inner critic, relentless, loud, and convincing. It tells you you're behind, that you're not doing enough, that you should have done things differently, that you might mess it all up tomorrow. It's a lot, and we carry all of it in our minds. In this opening section, the authors introduce the real problem. We've grown so used to this mental overload that we've stopped realizing it's even there. We think it's normal to feel anxious all the time. We think it's just part of adulthood to never feel truly present. We live like we're surviving a never-ending mental marathon, and we're barely keeping pace. But the cost is high. Mental clutter shows up in everything, in our decision-making, in how we react to stress, in how present we are with people we love. It clouds our creativity. It hijacks our focus. It robs us of joy and replaces it with fatigue. And over time, it chips away at our sense of peace and personal power. Scott and Davenport explain that the root of this clutter comes down to three powerful forces: overthinking, negativity, and distraction. Overthinking keeps us trapped in loops, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, questioning every move we make. It makes us feel like we're solving problems, but in reality, we're just creating new ones inside our heads. Negativity acts like a fog. It colors everything with doubt, fear, frustration, and self-criticism. And it's often so subtle, we don't even notice how much of our inner dialogue is driven by fear-based thinking. Then there's distraction, the quietest but most dangerous of the three. Distraction lures us into constant stimulation. We scroll through social media not for entertainment, but to numb ourselves from our thoughts. We multitask not for efficiency, but to avoid sitting still long enough to face what's going on inside. The authors aren't trying to scare you. They're not blaming you. In fact, they're doing the opposite. They're telling you that you're not alone, and more importantly, that this doesn't have to be your normal. This book offers a different path. A way out. And it starts here, with a simple but powerful idea: you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. Which means you can learn to separate yourself from them, to quiet the noise, and to intentionally choose what stays in your mental space, and what doesn't. And this isn't about becoming some perfectly calm person overnight. It's about developing awareness. Learning to pause. To notice. To ask, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking this? Is this helping me or hurting me? Because once you begin to notice your mental clutter, you've already taken the first step in clearing it. Scott and Davenport remind us, peace of mind isn't something reserved for monks or people with empty schedules. It's something you can cultivate, even in the middle of a busy, full life. Mental clarity isn't a luxury, it's a skill. A life-changing one. And here's the best part: you don't need hours of free time or a major life reset to get started. All you need is the willingness to look inward. To slow down just enough to begin clearing the space in your mind, so that your thoughts no longer run you, but support you. This isn't the end of the battle, but it's the beginning of your breakthrough. Because once you know where the clutter is coming from, you can stop being a prisoner of it. You can become the architect of a calmer, clearer, more focused life. And that journey starts here. Let's move into part 2, mental overload. How negative thinking takes over. Let's pause for a second and get honest. How often do your thoughts spiral into worst-case scenarios? How often do you assume something won't work out before you even try? You might not notice it right away, but if you zoom in, you'll see a pattern, a deeply familiar one. It's called negative thinking, and it's quietly ruling the minds of millions of people every single day. In this part of Declutter Your Mind, S.J. Scott and Barrie Davenport break down how negativity seeps into our thoughts, not like a wave crashing in all at once, but like water dripping from a leaky faucet. Over time, it fills your mental space until you're swimming in doubt, fear, frustration, and mental fatigue. And the thing is, negative thinking doesn't always look negative. Sometimes, it disguises itself as being realistic, or just trying to prepare. But underneath that rational mask is a current of emotion, anxiety, insecurity, guilt, shame, that slowly eats away at your peace of mind. The authors explain that our minds are wired for survival, not serenity. That means your brain is constantly scanning for danger, real or imagined. It holds on to every past failure, criticism, and mistake, using it as evidence for why you should doubt yourself. It replays painful memories, not to torture you, but to try and protect you from repeating them. The problem is, this protection becomes a prison. You start avoiding opportunities. You second-guess your decisions. You feel stuck, even when nothing is actually wrong in your life. Sound familiar? This part of the book pulls no punches. Scott and Davenport walk us through how these patterns show up in our daily lives. Like that voice that tells you you're not smart enough, or that you're too late to start over. The one that whispers that everyone else has it figured out but you. The voice that turns minor setbacks into major self-blame. But here's the critical insight. These thoughts aren't the truth. They're just habits. And like any habit, they can be broken. The authors emphasize that your thoughts have immense power. They shape your emotions, your actions, your habits, and ultimately your life. When your mental landscape is filled with negative patterns, you start reacting to life instead of responding to it. You operate from fear instead of purpose. And that's when you stop living and start surviving. The good news? You can change that. You can take your power back, one thought at a time. It starts with awareness. Becoming conscious of your mental script. Catching those sneaky phrases like, "I can't, what if it all goes wrong?" Or, "I'm not good enough." You don't have to fight the thought. You just need to notice it. Because once you can observe your thinking, you can step outside of it. You create space. And in that space, you get to decide what you want to believe. Scott and Davenport guide us through how to gently challenge negative thoughts, not with fake positivity, but with clarity and compassion. They show how to replace fear-driven thinking with questions like, "Is this thought helpful? Is it true? Would I say this to someone I love?" This isn't about being cheerful all the time. It's about being free. Free from the mental noise that tells you you're not enough. Free from the lies your mind repeats on a loop. Free from the automatic belief that life is against you. Because the truth is, life is happening for you, but only when your mind stops convincing you otherwise. In this chapter, you're not just learning a concept. You're unlearning years of mental conditioning. You're starting to see that just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it deserves to stay. And that realization? That's powerful. That's where real transformation begins. Scott and Davenport aren't preaching from some mountaintop. They've been through it themselves. They've battled anxiety, burnout, emotional fog, and they've come out on the other side with tools that actually work. Tools that are simple, actionable, and built for real life. Not a perfect life, a real one. With meetings, deadlines, families, side hustles, and all the messiness in between. So if your mind has been stuck in a loop of negativity, if you've felt like a prisoner of your own thoughts, just know, you're not broken. You're human. And you're not powerless. This part of the book hands you the key. And the best part? The moment you start thinking differently, your life begins to feel different. Not in some massive overnight shift, but in the subtle, life-changing moments where you finally feel calm inside. Where clarity replaces chaos. And where peace becomes your new baseline, not just your occasional vacation. Let's continue the journey with Part 3, Reclaiming Control, Building a Foundation of Mindfulness. Imagine this, you're stuck in traffic. Horns are blaring, you're late for a meeting, your phone keeps buzzing, and your mind is running a mile a minute. In that moment, how often do you stop and breathe, not just physically, but mentally? Most of us don't. We live in a world that's constantly pulling at our attention. Email alerts, news updates, social media notifications, family obligations, work deadlines. It's nonstop. And over time, all that noise becomes your normal. You forget what it feels like to be present. You forget that your mind can be quiet. But here's the truth, you cannot declutter your mind unless you first learn how to pause. This part of the book is where Scott and Davenport introduce one of the most powerful tools we have, mindfulness. Now, before you picture incense and sitting cross-legged on a mountaintop, take a breath. Mindfulness isn't about becoming a monk. It's about something much more practical and grounded, learning how to pay attention on purpose, without judgment. It's the difference between reacting to life and responding to it. The authors explain that mindfulness is about becoming aware of your thoughts as they happen, instead of getting swept away by them. It's like standing on the side of a river and watching your thoughts float by, without needing to jump in and swim after every single one. And here's the beautiful part. When you begin practicing mindfulness, you start to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. That space, the gap between stimulus and response, is where your power lives. For the busy professional, the business owner, the student juggling assignments and ambitions, this is a game changer. Because mindfulness isn't just about inner peace. It's about clarity, focus, and emotional freedom. It's what helps you make better decisions, communicate more calmly, and live with intention instead of reaction. The authors walk us through how even 5 minutes of mindfulness a day can change your entire relationship with stress. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a fancy setup. You just need to breathe and notice. They guide readers through simple but effective mindfulness practices. Like a breathing exercise where you simply count your inhales and exhales, or a technique called the body scan, where you gently bring awareness to different parts of your body. These tools sound small, but their impact is massive. Because when you become mindful, you stop living on autopilot. You stop numbing out. You become awake to your own life. In a world that rewards busyness, mindfulness teaches you to slow down, not to lose time, but to gain your presence. And with presence comes power. Scott and Davenport also explore how mindfulness helps you navigate emotions more skillfully. Instead of getting caught in a storm of anger or anxiety, mindfulness teaches you to observe the emotion, name it, and let it pass through. No judgment. No shame. Just awareness. You begin to understand that you don't need to suppress or fix every thought or feeling. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply sit with it. Breathe through it. And let it go. This part of the book isn't about escaping life, it's about returning to it. It's about making space for joy in the middle of the chaos. It's about realizing that peace isn't a destination, it's a decision you make, moment by moment, thought by thought. So if your mind has felt cluttered, noisy, or overwhelmed, if you've been stuck in a loop of reactivity, this part is your invitation to reclaim control. Not through force, but through presence. You don't need to master it overnight. You just need to begin. Take one breath. One moment. One pause. And from there, everything begins to shift. Let's dive into Part 4. Part 4. Taking Control. How to redirect your thoughts with purpose. You've likely been there. That moment when your mind starts spiraling, whether it's stress over work deadlines, doubts about the future, or even that lingering feeling of overwhelm from the constant demands of life. Before you know it, your mind is racing in 1,000 different directions, and you're left feeling completely out of control. But here's the truth, you have the power to change the direction of your thoughts. In Part 4 of Declutter Your Mind, Scott and Davenport dive into one of the most crucial aspects of mental clarity, redirecting your thoughts with purpose. They teach us that, while we can't always control the events that come our way, we absolutely have the power to control how we respond to them. And it all begins with the way we think. Our thoughts are like trains on a track. They move along, and sometimes they veer off course, picking up speed as they head into places we don't want to go. But just as you can redirect a train's track, you can also redirect the trajectory of your thoughts. This part of the book is all about shifting gears and creating mental space for focus, clarity, and positive action. It's about recognizing that we aren't helpless in the face of our thoughts. In fact, the key to mental clarity is learning to steer them, to direct them toward what matters most. Scott and Davenport introduce several powerful techniques to help you take charge of your thoughts. One of the simplest but most effective methods they share is called the thought-stopping technique. The next time you catch yourself spiraling into negative thoughts, they suggest you visualize a stop sign and mentally tell yourself, "Stop!" It's a way of interrupting that mental pattern and creating a space where you can consciously choose your next thought. But redirecting your thoughts isn't just about stopping negative thinking. It's about replacing it with something purposeful. For example, if you find yourself obsessing over what went wrong during the day, you could intentionally redirect your focus to gratitude or solutions. This shift in focus moves you from a place of frustration and negativity into a space of empowerment and action. And here's something important to remember. This isn't about forcing yourself to think positive all the time or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about realignment, recognizing when your thoughts are taking you off track and gently guiding them back to what's important to you. For the busy professional or business person, this practice is essential. Your days are packed with demands, and the constant influx of information and problems can easily overwhelm your mind. By learning how to redirect your thoughts with purpose, you can regain control over your mental energy and stop reacting to every little thing that comes your way. Another key point Scott and Davenport make is the idea of thought awareness. When you become aware of the patterns in your thinking, whether it's self-doubt, negativity, or anxiety, you can begin to question whether these thoughts are really serving you. More often than not, they aren't. They're just habits. And when you see that, you can start to change them. Redirecting your thoughts also requires patience and practice. It's not an overnight transformation. But the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. Over time, you'll find that you're less controlled by your thoughts and more in control of how you respond to them. Scott and Davenport remind us that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we process and react to those events. The key to mental clarity, then, is creating that space to choose your thoughts rather than letting them choose you. This part of the book gives us the tools to not just stop the negative spirals, but to cultivate a mindset of purposeful thinking. Whether it's focusing on gratitude, solutions, or simply being present in the moment, redirecting your thoughts empowers you to reclaim your mind and energy. In today's fast-paced world, where distractions are everywhere, being able to take control of your thoughts is one of the most valuable skills you can have. It helps you stay focused, maintain your peace, and ultimately, create a life that aligns with your goals and values. So, the next time your mind starts to run away with itself, remember that you hold the reins. With the right tools and mindset, you can always redirect your thoughts with purpose. Let's move on to part 5, Space to Breathe, Simplifying Your Daily Life and Routines. In today's fast-paced world, we're constantly on the go. Work demands, family obligations, personal goals, and the never-ending stream of distractions leave us feeling overwhelmed. The noise of modern life can drown out the peace we all long for, making it feel impossible to catch our breath. But here's the secret: you don't need to add more to your plate, you need to simplify it. In part 5 of Declutter Your Mind, Scott and Davenport introduce the transformative idea of simplifying your routines and daily life. They explain that, by stripping away the unnecessary and focusing on what truly matters, you create the mental and emotional space you need to breathe. This isn't about getting rid of everything, it's about cutting through the clutter and creating a life that's easier to navigate. When we live in a constant state of overwhelm, we're often left feeling like we're barely keeping up. Every day seems like a race, and no matter how hard we try, we never quite reach the finish line. But simplifying your life isn't about doing less. It's about doing the right things, and doing them with intention. One of the first steps Scott and Davenport emphasize is streamlining your routines. It's easy to get stuck in habits that drain us, like checking emails the moment we wake up or mindlessly scrolling through social media throughout the day. These habits not only waste time but also add to our mental clutter. Instead, they encourage us to create intentional routines, ones that set us up for success instead of chaos. For instance, starting the day with a set morning ritual can clear the mind and help you feel grounded. Whether it's a few minutes of stretching, reading, or simply having a quiet cup of coffee, this intentional time allows you to feel calm and in control, setting the tone for the day. But simplifying your life isn't just about your morning routine. It's about reducing decision fatigue. The mental exhaustion that comes from constantly having to make choices, no matter how small. When you simplify your options, you give your brain room to focus on what really matters. Scott and Davenport talk about the importance of creating automated systems in your life, things you don't have to think about. Whether it's meal prepping for the week or setting up automatic bill payments, these small changes can free up mental space and energy for the things that truly matter. Another powerful takeaway from this part is the concept of prioritization. So often, we get caught up in trying to do everything at once, but in reality, not everything deserves our attention. Scott and Davenport urge us to identify the most important tasks, the ones that align with our values and long-term goals, and focus on those first. The rest can wait. By putting your energy into what's truly meaningful, you create a sense of purpose in your life, which directly contributes to your mental clarity. A key piece of simplifying your life is learning to say no. It's a simple yet powerful act of reclaiming your time and energy. Saying no doesn't mean you're being selfish. It means you're being intentional. It means you're choosing to protect your mental and emotional well-being, so you have the capacity to focus on what truly matters to you. When you start saying no to things that drain you, you start saying yes to the things that nourish and rejuvenate you. The authors also discuss the role of decluttering your physical space as part of simplifying your life. If your environment is chaotic, it's difficult to feel clear-headed. Creating a neat and organized space, even if it's just a small corner of your home or office, can make a huge difference. An organized space fosters a clearer mind, and a clearer mind allows you to focus on what's important. Scott and Davenport emphasize that simplifying doesn't mean eliminating everything that brings joy or value to your life. It's about creating intentional space for the things that support your goals, your health, and your peace of mind. When you clear away the distractions and clutter, you create room for growth, creativity, and balance. In this part, you'll learn that simplifying your life is an ongoing practice. It's not something you do once and forget about. It's a mindset that you apply every day. And the more you simplify, the more mental space you create for the things that truly matter. So if your days are filled with endless tasks and stress, take a step back and consider, what can I simplify? What small changes can I make to create more space to breathe? Because when you start simplifying your routines, you start reclaiming your life and your mind. Let's move on to part 6, boundaries and balance, reclaiming your time and energy. If you feel like your time is constantly slipping through your fingers, like there's never enough of it for everything you need to do, you're not alone. Many of us struggle with finding balance in our lives, and the reason often boils down to one key issue: the lack of boundaries. In part 6 of Declutter Your Mind, Scott and Davenport make an important distinction. Boundaries aren't walls, they're protections. They're the invisible lines that you set for yourself, designed to protect your energy, your time, and your mental peace. Without boundaries, life feels like an endless series of demands, and we end up feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and mentally cluttered. So, how do we set these boundaries? And more importantly, how do we make sure that we don't feel guilty about doing so? The authors begin by explaining that boundaries are essential not only in our professional lives but in our personal lives as well. Whether it's saying no to extra work assignments that drain your energy, protecting your personal time to recharge, or creating space for deep focus without distractions, boundaries help you prioritize what's truly important. For busy professionals and business people, this part is particularly relevant. You're constantly juggling multiple tasks and responsibilities, and without boundaries, the lines between work and personal life blur, leading to burnout. Scott and Davenport share several strategies for establishing clear boundaries, starting with recognizing where your energy is being drained. It's important to assess where you're overcommitting yourself and to identify the areas where you need to pull back. Setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself. By protecting your time and energy, you create space for the things that matter most to you, whether it's spending quality time with family, engaging in self-care, or dedicating time to personal growth. And as they point out, this act of self-respect doesn't make you selfish. It makes you more productive and focused because you're no longer constantly running on empty. One of the powerful practices Scott and Davenport suggest is creating a stop doing list. We're all familiar with the to-do list, but the stop doing list is an eye-opening exercise in itself. It's a way of identifying the habits, tasks, and commitments that drain your time and energy without serving your bigger goals. It's not about eliminating everything, but about making conscious choices to free yourself from the things that don't align with your purpose. This is a key step in taking back control of your time and mental clarity. But boundaries aren't just about saying no, they're also about communicating effectively. A big part of boundary setting is letting others know what you need. Whether it's at work, with family, or in social situations, clear communication is key to ensuring that your boundaries are respected. Scott and Davenport explain that boundary setting is not about being harsh or confrontational. It's about asserting your needs in a way that is clear and respectful. By doing this, you not only protect your time but also teach others how to treat your time and energy. For many people, especially in fast-paced, high-pressure environments, creating balance is often seen as impossible. But the truth is, balance isn't about giving equal time to every part of your life. It's about recognizing what needs your attention most at any given moment, and having the flexibility to give yourself permission to focus on those things. Balance is dynamic. It shifts and changes depending on your current priorities and needs. Scott and Davenport also address the importance of downtime. You can't pour from an empty cup, and in a world that glorifies hustle and productivity, it's easy to forget that rest is just as crucial to success. Taking time for yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Whether it's carving out time for a hobby, getting enough sleep, or simply sitting in silence for a few minutes, this time recharges your mental batteries and allows you to show up as your best self in all areas of life. Another essential aspect of creating balance is learning to detach from work and obligations during your personal time. With the advent of technology, it's easier than ever to be on all the time. But Scott and Davenport remind us that, in order to truly recharge, we need to set boundaries around our time and disconnect from the constant pull of work and digital notifications. This practice of detachment creates space for relaxation and enjoyment, leading to greater focus and clarity when it's time to dive back into work. In this part of the book, Scott and Davenport encourage us to embrace a simple but powerful truth: boundaries are not restrictions, they are liberations. By setting boundaries around your time, your energy, and your focus, you're giving yourself the freedom to live intentionally and with purpose. So, as you move through your day, consider where you can create stronger boundaries. What parts of your life are calling for more protection? And remember, it's okay to say no. In fact, saying no may be the key to giving yourself the time and space to say yes to the life you truly want to live. Let's move on to part 7, emotional clutter, when relationships drain your peace. It's often said that the people in our lives can either lift us up or bring us down. While relationships can be a source of joy and fulfillment, they can also become a source of emotional clutter. In Part 7 of Declutter Your Mind, Scott and Davenport explore how toxic or draining relationships can weigh on our mental and emotional well-being, and how we can start reclaiming our peace by clearing away that emotional clutter. We've all been there. Feeling drained after a conversation, carrying the weight of someone else's emotional baggage, or constantly trying to fix a relationship that seems to never improve. Over time, these emotional burdens build up, creating mental clutter that clouds our thinking and decision-making. The authors emphasize that, just like physical clutter, emotional clutter can make it hard to think clearly, feel at ease, or focus on what's truly important. One of the most crucial points Scott and Davenport highlight is the importance of recognizing toxic relationships. Toxic people often take more than they give, whether it's through manipulation, negativity, or constant emotional demands. These relationships can come in many forms, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a colleague, but their impact is always the same: they drain your energy and your peace. The authors encourage you to take an honest look at your relationships and ask yourself, do they add value to my life? Do they help me grow, or do they hold me back? Relationships that create stress, anxiety, or constant emotional turmoil are not only unhealthy, they also prevent you from reaching your full potential. One of the first steps in clearing emotional clutter is setting boundaries within relationships. Just as you set boundaries in other areas of your life, you need to establish clear emotional boundaries with others. This means learning to say no when someone's demands on your time or energy are too much, and recognizing when it's time to step back from a relationship that is no longer serving you. Scott and Davenport share practical strategies for setting emotional boundaries. One of the key techniques is communicating your needs openly. This doesn't mean confronting the person in an aggressive or defensive way. It's about calmly and assertively expressing how their behavior is affecting you and what you need from the relationship moving forward. By being honest and clear, you give others the opportunity to respect your emotional boundaries and, in some cases, to change their behavior. However, not all relationships are so straightforward. Some relationships are deeply rooted in history or emotion, and it can be difficult to detach or set boundaries without feeling guilty or worried about the fallout. This is where the authors introduce the concept of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't mean cutting people out of your life completely. It's about protecting your emotional well-being by disconnecting your sense of self-worth from others' actions. It's about realizing that you don't have to absorb the negative emotions or behaviors of others. You are in control of your response, and you can choose to protect your peace. A significant part of this journey is forgiving others, and more importantly, forgiving yourself. Holding on to grudges or anger doesn't just affect the person you're angry with. It also keeps you stuck in a cycle of emotional clutter. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools in decluttering your mind. It doesn't mean you condone the other person's behavior, but it means you release yourself from the emotional hold they have over you. Scott and Davenport stressed the importance of focusing on healthy, supportive relationships. In order to create space for positive, nurturing connections, you must first clear away the toxic ones. When you do, you'll find that you have more room for the relationships that truly bring you joy and fulfillment. These relationships are the ones that will help you grow, encourage your well-being, and support your mental clarity. The authors also delve into the concept of self-care within relationships. It's easy to lose yourself in the needs and demands of others, especially if you're a caregiver or someone who finds fulfillment in helping others. But Scott and Davenport remind us that we cannot pour from an empty cup. Taking time to care for yourself, whether it's through alone time, hobbies, or self-reflection, is essential for maintaining healthy, balanced relationships. When you make self-care a priority, you show up as a better partner, friend, and colleague. Another important aspect they discuss is the role of forgiveness in freeing yourself from emotional clutter. While it's crucial to set boundaries and detach, forgiveness is the key to letting go of the emotional baggage that weighs us down. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean releasing the power that resentment holds over you. By forgiving others and yourself, you create space for healing and emotional freedom. In this part of the book, Scott and Davenport encourage you to take inventory of your relationships, to identify which ones are truly adding value to your life, and which ones are causing you unnecessary emotional strain. By clearing out the toxic relationships and setting firm boundaries, you'll create more mental space to focus on the relationships that nurture you and help you grow. It's also important to remember that, just like physical clutter, emotional clutter doesn't disappear overnight. It's a process of ongoing maintenance. As you move forward, be mindful of the relationships you allow into your life and continue to set boundaries that protect your mental and emotional well-being. This practice will not only help you clear your mind but will also bring more peace, joy, and balance into your life. Let's move on to Part 8, Connection that Heals, Building Intentional, Healthy Bonds. In our fast-paced, digital world, it's easy to feel disconnected, even though we're constantly surrounded by people. We have endless social media interactions, work meetings, and family gatherings, yet we can often feel emotionally distant or misunderstood. Declutter Your Mind tackles the importance of building intentional, healthy connections, relationships that truly nurture your soul and help you grow, rather than drain your energy or contribute to mental clutter. In Part 8, Scott and Davenport explore the concept of intentional connection. What does it really mean to connect with someone? Is it simply about spending time together, or is there something deeper at play? They argue that true connection goes beyond surface-level interactions. It's about forming bonds that are rooted in authenticity, trust, and mutual respect. These connections are the ones that help us feel seen, heard, and supported, qualities that are often missing in our busy, disconnected lives. The first step in cultivating these intentional relationships is being intentional with your time and energy. In a world where we often feel pulled in a million directions, it's important to choose where we invest our emotional resources. Just as we set boundaries in our professional and personal lives to protect our time, we must also be intentional about where we place our emotional energy. Are you nurturing relationships that bring you joy and growth? Or are you spending your emotional energy on connections that leave you feeling drained and unfulfilled? Scott and Davenport emphasize that one of the hallmarks of healthy relationships is emotional reciprocity. In a balanced relationship, both parties give and take in equal measure. This doesn't mean everything has to be perfectly balanced all the time, but it does mean that both people should feel valued, respected, and heard. When this mutual respect is absent, one person can easily feel neglected or taken advantage of. The authors suggest that in order to cultivate healthier relationships, it's crucial to evaluate whether the connections you maintain are genuinely supportive or whether they become one-sided or draining. Another key element of building healthy connections is vulnerability. In order to truly connect with others, we must be willing to be open and authentic. Scott and Davenport explain that vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or exposing your deepest secrets to everyone you meet. Rather, it's about allowing yourself to be real and transparent with the people you trust. It's through vulnerability that we build deeper, more meaningful connections. When we share our true selves, we invite others to do the same, creating a foundation of trust and understanding. One of the challenges many of us face when trying to build strong, meaningful relationships is the fear of rejection or judgment. In today's world, where social media can sometimes highlight the best parts of people's lives while glossing over the struggles, it can be tempting to hide behind a facade. However, Scott and Davenport argue that true connection comes from embracing our imperfections and showing up as we are, messy, vulnerable, and real. It's through this authenticity that we attract people who will appreciate us for who we truly are, not for the image we present. Scott and Davenport also dive into the idea of emotional availability. In order to build meaningful connections, we need to be emotionally present and available for others. This means being present in the moment, listening actively, and offering empathy when needed. Too often, we're distracted by our own thoughts, phones, or daily concerns, leaving little room for truly connecting with those around us. The authors stress the importance of showing up fully for the people in our lives, whether it's a partner, friend, or colleague. By being emotionally available, we create a safe space for others to open up and share, which strengthens the bond between us. Healthy connections are also about creating an environment where mutual growth is encouraged. The best relationships are those that challenge us to be better, to grow, and to evolve. Scott and Davenport encourage us to reflect on the people we surround ourselves with. Are they pushing us to be our best selves? Are they inspiring us to live more intentionally, to chase our dreams, or to adopt healthier habits? True connection doesn't just make us feel good in the moment. It challenges us to elevate ourselves in meaningful ways. In this part of the book, Scott and Davenport also highlight the importance of quality over quantity in relationships. It's easy to fall into the trap of collecting a wide circle of acquaintances or social media friends, but in reality, having a small number of close, authentic connections is far more valuable than a large network of superficial ones. These deep connections are the ones that provide us with emotional support, encouragement, and a sense of belonging. Ultimately, the authors stress that connection is not a passive experience, it's an active choice. In order to build healthy, intentional relationships, we must be proactive in cultivating them. This means making time for the people who matter, engaging in meaningful conversations, and being willing to invest in the emotional work required to strengthen the bond. But just like any other area of life, it's a two-way street. The most fulfilling relationships are those where both people are equally invested in the connection. Scott and Davenport also encourage us to remember that we're not alone in our journey toward emotional well-being. Supportive relationships are there to help us through tough times, and in turn, we have the opportunity to support others. Building intentional connections isn't just about what we gain, it's also about what we give back to those who are walking alongside us. By nurturing our relationships and being intentional about the connections we form, we create a community of support that enriches our lives and helps us thrive. Let's dive into Part 9, Clear Space, Clear Mind, How Your Environment Shapes Your Thinking. Have you ever noticed how a messy room or a cluttered desk can make you feel overwhelmed and unfocused? Or how stepping into a clean, organized space instantly gives you a sense of calm and clarity? In this chapter, Scott and Davenport make an important connection between our physical environment and our mental state, emphasizing how the space around us plays a significant role in our ability to think clearly and feel at ease. Our surroundings have a profound impact on our mood, productivity, and mental well-being. Think about the last time you were in a cluttered or chaotic space. Did it leave you feeling stressed, distracted, or drained? Conversely, when you spend time in an environment that's calm, organized, and purposeful, you may notice a shift in how you feel, more relaxed, more focused, and more capable of handling life's challenges. The authors argue that clearing physical clutter is not just about tidying up, it's about creating a space that allows your mind to breathe and operate at its full potential. Scott and Davenport take a deep dive into how clutter affects our brain. When we're surrounded by mess, whether it's physical clutter, unfinished tasks, or excessive stimuli, our brain becomes overloaded, constantly processing and reacting to all the stuff around us. This overload can lead to feelings of anxiety, stress, and mental fatigue. In essence, clutter creates a state of mental clutter, where we find it hard to think clearly, make decisions, or focus on what truly matters. In the modern world, where we're constantly bombarded with information, distractions, and demands, this mental clutter is even more prevalent, making it harder to feel centered and focused. One of the author's key insights is the importance of creating designated spaces for specific activities. For example, if you work in the same space where you relax, you may find it difficult to separate the two mentally. The authors recommend setting up environments that align with the activities you engage in. For instance, create a dedicated workspace where you focus on professional tasks, and a separate, peaceful area for relaxation or personal time. By doing so, you can mentally shift gears more easily, avoiding the mental confusion that comes from mixing different activities in one space. The concept of decluttering your physical environment is not limited to cleaning your desk or organizing your home. It also involves making intentional choices about what to bring into your space. Scott and Davenport challenge us to think about the things we keep around us. Are they serving a purpose, or are they contributing to unnecessary noise and distraction? Whether it's old papers, unused items, or even negative energy from people, they all contribute to the mental clutter that keeps us from feeling clear and focused. One of the most profound points the authors make is the idea of minimalism, not in the traditional sense of getting rid of everything, but in the sense of simplifying our surroundings to what truly matters. Minimalism can help you focus on what's important, freeing up mental space to think clearly and pursue your goals. The authors encourage you to look at your space with fresh eyes and ask, what can I eliminate or reorganize to create a sense of calm? It's about being intentional with what you keep around you, allowing only the things that inspire, motivate, and bring you peace to remain. Another critical aspect Scott and Davenport discuss is the role of nature in our environment. Nature has been shown to have a calming effect on the mind, reducing stress and improving mental clarity. Whether it's a walk in the park, having plants in your office, or simply enjoying a view of the outdoors, connecting with nature can have a powerful impact on your mental state. The authors recommend incorporating elements of nature into your environment to help reset your mind and foster a sense of peace and balance. The authors also point out the importance of routine and order in your space. When your environment is disorganized, it's harder to focus and feel productive. On the other hand, when you maintain a sense of order, your mind feels less overwhelmed, and you can approach tasks with a greater sense of control and purpose. Scott and Davenport provide simple, actionable steps for organizing your space, such as setting aside time each week to tidy up and regularly evaluating what you truly need in your environment. They also encourage you to create visual cues that remind you of your goals or things that inspire you, whether it's a vision board, an inspirational quote, or an object that brings you joy. In this chapter, the authors make the compelling case that a clear space leads to a clear mind. By intentionally creating an environment that supports clarity, peace, and focus, you give yourself the opportunity to think more clearly, reduce stress, and improve your mental well-being. A cluttered space doesn't just reflect a cluttered mind, it can actively contribute to mental overload. Therefore, the act of decluttering your environment is an important step toward decluttering your mind. Scott and Davenport also remind us that decluttering is a continuous practice. It's not about achieving perfection or maintaining a perfectly organized space at all times. It's about creating habits that keep your environment conducive to clear thinking and emotional well-being. As you simplify your surroundings and remove the distractions, you'll notice that your mind becomes more open, more focused, and better equipped to handle the demands of life. Finally, Part 10, The New You, Creating a Lasting Practice of Mental Clarity. As we near the end of Declutter Your Mind, Scott and Davenport bring everything together in a powerful, life-changing message. Creating lasting mental clarity is not just about one-time actions, it's about developing a consistent practice that supports your mental well-being over the long term. In this final part, They focus on how to integrate the tools and strategies from earlier chapters into a sustainable routine that helps you keep your mind clear, your thoughts focused, and your energy high. The authors start by emphasizing the importance of habit formation. One of the most effective ways to ensure mental clarity is by adopting habits that support your well-being. Scott and Davenport explain that small, intentional habits, like regular mindfulness practice, decluttering your workspace, or setting clear boundaries, can accumulate over time to create lasting change. But forming new habits requires consistency, patience, and a commitment to the process. It's not about being perfect, but about showing up each day and making gradual improvements. The key takeaway here is that mental clarity is a practice, not a destination. They also highlight that one of the most powerful tools in creating lasting mental clarity is the ability to manage your thoughts. Earlier in the book, the authors discussed how mental clutter is often a result of negative or unproductive thinking patterns. In this final part, Scott and Davenport remind us that we have the power to change the way we think. Cognitive reframing, or shifting the way we interpret our experiences, can drastically improve our mental clarity. By focusing on the present moment, challenging negative thoughts, and choosing to see the positive, we can train our minds to stay clear, focused, and positive. Another crucial element in creating a lasting practice of mental clarity is self-care. The authors discuss how important it is to nurture your body, mind, and spirit. A clear mind isn't just about reducing mental clutter, it's about cultivating a life of balance and well-being. They encourage us to develop self-care routines that prioritize mental, physical, and emotional health. Whether it's through regular exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep, or engaging in activities that bring us joy, self-care lays the foundation for sustained mental clarity. The authors remind us that self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity for maintaining our mental health in today's fast-paced world. Scott and Davenport also introduced the concept of emotional resilience, which is essential for long-term clarity. Life inevitably brings challenges, stress, and uncertainty, and it's easy for our mental clarity to become clouded in the face of adversity. However, by building emotional resilience, through practices like mindfulness, meditation, journaling, and seeking support when needed, we can learn to bounce back from life's difficulties without losing our mental focus. Resilience is about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than allowing them to derail us. The authors emphasize that building resilience is not about avoiding difficulties, but about developing the strength to face them head-on while maintaining mental clarity. A powerful aspect of this final chapter is the focus on alignment with your values and purpose. Scott and Davenport argue that when you are clear about what truly matters to you, your mental clarity will naturally follow. Knowing your why, your values, goals, and deeper purpose gives you direction and helps you stay grounded. When life gets chaotic, having a clear sense of purpose acts as an anchor, keeping your mind focused on what's important. The authors encourage readers to spend time reflecting on their values, vision, and long-term goals, ensuring that their actions and decisions are aligned with their true purpose. Part 10 also delves into the idea of mindful living. Being present in the moment and engaging fully in each experience is a practice that fosters clarity. Whether it's through mindful eating, mindful listening, or simply taking time to be present in your surroundings, mindfulness helps you clear away distractions and focus on the here and now. Scott and Davenport explain that integrating mindfulness into everyday life is one of the most effective ways to maintain mental clarity, reduce stress, and improve overall well-being. Finally, the authors underscore that mental clarity is a lifelong journey, not a quick fix. It's about continuous growth, self-reflection, and a commitment to prioritizing your mental well-being every single day. By staying consistent with the practices outlined in the book, whether it's decluttering your environment, managing your thoughts, setting boundaries, or practicing self-care, you will create a foundation for lasting mental clarity. The journey may not always be smooth, but with each small step you take, you'll find that your mind becomes clearer, your focus sharper, and your life more intentional. In this last section, Scott and Davenport leave us with a powerful reminder: you have the power to shape your thoughts, your environment, and your life. It's all within your control. By adopting the principles of mental clarity and making them a regular part of your routine, you can create a life that is not only more focused and peaceful but also more meaningful and aligned with your true purpose. As we wrap up Declutter Your Mind, the path to mental clarity becomes clear. It's not about achieving perfection, but about making intentional choices each day to create a peaceful, focused life. The constant mental clutter we face, whether from our thoughts, emotions, or the chaos around us, can overwhelm us and steal our sense of calm. But the authors teach us that by recognizing this clutter, we can take back control. Managing your thoughts, particularly through reframing negative patterns, empowers you to transform your mind from a source of stress to one of focus and calm. The book also reminds us how deeply our environments affect our mental state. A cluttered space often leads to a cluttered mind. By organizing your surroundings, your home, workspace, or digital life, you create room for clarity and productivity. Setting boundaries is another crucial step. Saying no to draining commitments and prioritizing what truly matters gives you the space and energy to focus on what counts. Mindfulness is a central theme in this process, helping you stay present and centered in a world full of distractions. The more you practice mindfulness, the more your mind learns to quiet the noise and focus on the here and now. Along with mindfulness, self-care becomes a non-negotiable part of the journey. When you take care of your body, mind, and emotions, you build a strong foundation for lasting clarity. Resilience also plays a vital role. Life isn't always easy, but by building emotional resilience, you can maintain your clarity even during challenging times. And by simplifying your life, reducing unnecessary tasks and distractions, you make room for the things that matter most. This simplicity brings a sense of peace and focus that can transform how you approach your daily life. Ultimately, creating lasting mental clarity is a practice, not a one-time fix. With each small step, whether it's through decluttering your thoughts, space, or routines, you are creating a more focused, peaceful, and intentional life. Declutter Your Mind is a reminder that the power to transform your mental state and your life is already in your hands. It's about showing up each day, consistently choosing clarity, and making space for what truly matters. If you found this summary insightful and valuable, don't forget to show your support by subscribing to the Mindful Brief on YouTube. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this audiobook summary, share it with your peers, friends, or family who might benefit from it, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. Your engagement helps us create more in-depth and valuable content for you. Stay tuned for more summaries, insights, and strategies to elevate your knowledge and career. Subscribe now and be part of the journey.